War Eagle! This is the Tigers and Tide Auburn Football Podcast from SoutheasternFootball.com. Available on War Eagle Sports Radio, the Sporto channel, bringing you all Auburn Tigers all the time. Remember to download the War Eagle Sports Radio free iOS app and follow their channel on Twitter at War Eagle Radio. Here are your hosts, Brett Mason and Jamie Thomas.
Well, War Eagle, brother, how are you?
Roll Tide, man. I guess I'm all right. How about you?
I'm hanging in there. We are broadcasting live from our respective Alabama and Auburn bunkers in Southeast Alabama. Brett Mason here. My co-host, Jamie Thomas. Hello to everybody that's listening on the iOS or Android apps. You can get those in the App Store by searching for Tigers and Tide. Everybody that subscribes to us on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, YouTube, and more. We appreciate you guys for listening too. We're easy to find on any of those platforms, whatever your favorite is. Just search for Tigers and Tide, and this is our first ever live show starting this week. We're going to try to be live, I guess tentatively now. We'll say Sunday night at 8 if that works. We'll just see. Because we won't call in participation. I don't know how that's going to go tonight, but look, here's the deal. Our call-in number is 334-403-4500. 334-403-4500. We're going to have a section in the show on Sunday nights that's just for phone calls, but I figure tonight, Jamie, if anybody calls at any time, no matter when in the show it is, we'll probably just answer. Just so we can put somebody on. Does that make sense?
Makes sense to me.
We had a couple people call the show earlier, and, wasn't time to call yet.
Did you tell them to call back?
Well, no, I didn't answer it. 'Cause, I didn't want to talk to them then. So if you want to call the show, pretty much you can call anytime, or if you just want to hang on to the number and wait till we ask for phone calls, you can try that. And we'll see if we get any calls or not. My suspicions are, Jamie, we'll have to do this for a little while before people catch on and start calling. I don't know. I could be surprised. The number again is 334-403-4500. 334-403-3500. So we'll start out talking about Auburn, I suppose. A couple of injuries. Trey Williams, who I believe I sent you a text during the game and said maybe Muschamp had found him an impact player in the first half. Trey Williams was looking really good, but he got injured, which seems to be Auburn's deal this year. Rock Thomas injuries as well. I think both of them were leg injuries. Don't have updates on them. Don't know how serious it is. So we'll see how that goes. I was happy seeing Trey Williams near the ball or around the ball or in somebody's face nearly every play the first part of the first half, and I was like, wow, here's a kid that wants to play.
Yeah, he looked like he had a little heart to him.
Yeah, but then injuries happen, so
yeah.
That's the updates on the injury situation. Don't know any more about that right now. Other Auburn news, and look, this is why Auburn has to start winning or looking good. This is a perfect example. 4-star, the number one cornerback recruit in the country, Jamarcus King, decommitted from Auburn today. Did it on Twitter. Does that seem right to decommit on Twitter?
Man, that's what the world has come to. Everything happens on Twitter and Facebook now.
I'm kind of old now. Does that mean it's okay to break up with people on Twitter now?
I don't know. That's a pretty crappy move right there.
What is it any worse than decommitting on Twitter? I mean, I don't know what the rules are.
Well, kids these days, man. I don't know. I don't either. I mean, maybe we should ask him to call in and see what he's got to say.
All right. Jamarcus King, if you're listening to the show, the number is 334-403-4500.
Is it 3,500 or 4,500?
4,500.
Okay.
403-4500. So let's take a look at the game. Let's look at the stats of the game. Look, if you look at the stats, it looks like Auburn won, Jamie, but they didn't. But we'll discuss why. First downs, Auburn had 25. Mississippi State only had 18. Rushing yards, Auburn 201, MSU 56. Total offense, Auburn 389, MSU 326. Time of possession, Auburn 36 minutes, man. 36 to 23. Of course, that's from all the running they did. They just didn't want to put too much passing responsibility on Sean White's shoulders. The reason you can have all that time of possession and all those yardage and all those first downs and not really do anything is because you can't score in the red zone. 4 trips in the red zone, and we got 6 points, Jamie. 6 points. That's pretty bad. Matter of fact, 2 of those times were inside the 5-yard line. One of them was on the 1-yard line.
That was very similar to some of the red zone play calling we saw in the Iron Bowl last year.
God, it was so horrible, man. It was so horrible. We had the interception down in the red zone. We had the bad snap. We had the missed field goal, which never happens. It seems like when bad things start happening to teams sometimes, it seems like it just kind of snowballs. And I think that's Auburn's year, man. I don't think I hate to be being the Auburn fan, but I think it's just one of those years where you're just gonna have to suck it up and go, you know what, ain't too much gonna go right for us. I don't think they quit. I ain't by any means suggesting they quit, but I just think you need to realize that you're just gonna have to keep fighting and see what happens.
I think the expectations for Auburn might have been just a tad too high. You bought into it. I bought into it. All of the media bought into it. The fact of the matter was, it was like I said, it was Muschamp's first year. It was going to take some time to get the defense to where they needed to be. Offense was, with Jeremy Johnson coming in, I know he had a couple of good games the previous 2 years where he kind of stepped in for Nick Marshall. But I just think the expectations were too high. And, maybe Auburn cracked under that pressure just a little bit.
This is the first time, Jamie, since 2011 that a Gus Malzahn offense didn't score a touchdown.
Wow.
Remember before the season when we were talking about all Muschamp has to do is coach up a defense that can hold opponents to, what did we say, 30?
Yeah.
And no problem. Malzahn was going to be putting up 40 to 48 every game. Wrong.
Oops.
Auburn has now lost 5 consecutive SEC games. That's pretty disconcerting if you're an Auburn fan.
Man, that got Gene Chizik fired.
Yeah, and the thing that's going to save Malzahn, first it's only one season, but buyouts and stuff to get rid of Malzahn, I think the number I saw is $12 million.
Wow,
that's pretty steep. So he's safe. He's going to be fine no matter what happens, but at least for another year. But let's talk about Sean White. Look, he didn't look super impressive, but he was 20 for 28, which is 71%. He had 188 yards. They didn't really ask him to pass that much, so it's a pretty good stat, no more than he passed. He had a couple drop balls that would have made his numbers look even better, and he ran a little bit. Now, he didn't run a lot, but the runs that he made were huge, picking up third down conversions, picking up first downs. So he showed he could run. I tell you, a couple things I like. He hooked up with 9 different receivers, which is something Jeremy Johnson didn't come close to doing.
And he got Duke involved on the first series.
Got Duke involved. Wish we'd have saw more of Duke, but he got Duke involved. And the other thing I liked about him was he made decisions quickly, man. Like, he recognized that there was going to be nothing, and he tucked it and ran, which is something that just frustrated me to no end that Jeremy Johnson wouldn't do. So, look, did he look like a world beater? No. Did he look better than Jeremy Johnson? Absolutely. I'm interested to see if, we get him through his first game, what he'll look like with an easier opponent next time coming up. We got the off-week game, which will be difficult. That's, a little worried about that, especially it being a midweek game. But we've got some time to work with him is the good news. So we'll see what happens. Peyton Barber, again, proved that he's the offense, in my opinion. This is the third game now where they've put the game on his back and asked him if he could help them win, and he did.
Yeah.
Look, he's not going to be one of those dynamic backs that's busting it for touchdowns for 70 yards, but he can pick up 13 yards a lot. He can pick up 8 yards a lot, 9 yards a lot. 137-yard game for him. And I don't know if you I guess you watched the whole game. Kerryon Johnson was impressive to me. I mean, I think that's their 2 backs, man. That Peyton Barber / Kerryon Johnson tandem worked really really well, I thought, when they had it firing on all 8 cylinders there for a couple of drives.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's one of those things that just had been waiting on. But the defense, before I talk about the defense, what were your impressions? I mean, to me, just an overall eye test while I was watching the game, I was very happy with what I saw.
Well, I texted you in the first series, and I told you I thought Auburn had had him a quarterback finally, and of course he did go on to throw that interception right there on the 3-yard line. But I don't know. I feel like this guy's your future. I like his arm. He's got a heck of a cannon. For an arm. I mean, he throws an accurate football. He probably has some nerves Saturday. Offensively, I do like Peyton Barber. I think he's a great running back. He definitely runs downfield, which is what you need in this offense. Defensively, you've still got some holes to fill, but what team in the country doesn't? Another year or two under Muschamp, I think Auburn's going to be back to the top, that dominating defense like they used to have. Right now, it's just a depth issue. We've talked about it all year long. It's depth, it's experience. Auburn fans are just going to have to be patient. And I know that's tough in today's college football world. Everybody wants to win, win, win. But if they'll be patient and just trust in Gus's plan, I think Auburn's going to be back on top before too much longer.
Well, let's talk about defense. They definitely weren't a top 10 defense by any stretch, but they looked like they were playing ball, man, and I really liked seeing that.
You wanted to see the hustle. You didn't want to see just reaching out and slapping somebody, when they were running by. You wanted to see hustle. You wanted to see effort, and I think you definitely got that Saturday night.
And they accomplished some of their goals. I mean, they talked about leading up to the game. A couple of player interviews, they talked about where they had one main goal, and that was to keep Dak Prescott from running. And they were going to try to, it's a catch-22 when you got Dak Prescott and some receivers. You stop him running, he's going to beat you with a pass, and Auburn just doesn't have the personnel and the experience to beat the pass. But at least they had one goal, and they did well at it. Dak Prescott only had 14 yards, and Mississippi State only had 56 yards total rushing. Now, they had 270 through the air with 2 touchdowns. But at least they stopped something. They were like, okay, we're going to keep this from happening, and they achieved a goal. And they held the offense to enough that Auburn could have won.
Yeah.
If Auburn had had an offense, they could have won. The defense certainly helped them. They looked like they were hungry. They were on fire. And let me tell you, the second half was a pretty good half for the defense. They excelled on third downs. Mississippi State was 1 for 8 on third down conversions in the second half. They held them to 126 yards of total offense, and they only scored once with a field goal. So it was a pretty good half of ball. The first half was not quite as good stats-wise, but I thought they looked really good flying around. Unfortunately, when you don't have an offense, and who would have ever imagined we'd have been talking about a Gus Malzahn team that didn't have any offense?
Yeah.
But, I mean, you can get, seven third down stops in a row. But if your offense isn't going to capitalize on any of those, what you going to do? Not much would be my answer.
Yeah.
So we'll just see what happens. Look, they got some time. I think I liked that Sean White made decisions, and he seemed to make them pretty quickly. He didn't look lost. He didn't look like he was lost. He didn't look like he was a deer in the headlights.
No, he really looked like he was comfortable.
Hey, look, compared to how Jeremy Johnson looked, it was just like night and day. So, hey, Auburn fans, we got something to look forward to. I think they'll build. I no longer think that we will only win 3 games this year, so that's good. How many can Auburn win? I don't know, but I think they got something that they can certainly build on, and we'll see how far that can go. So I want to remind you real quick before we start talking about Alabama, we have to do a couple of things. Again, this will be aired later. Like always, we will post it up as a podcast that can be listened to anytime during the week. But for the purposes of the live show, we're going to squeeze the 2 podcasts together. I want to remind you that the phone number at any time you'd like to call during the podcast, or you want to write it down and say, I'm not calling this week, but I'll call next week, is 334-403-4500, 334-403-4500. You can this show you can call it any time. We wouldn't probably prefer that for other shows, but just to see if we could put somebody on the air. You people that called earlier can call. So we're going to try this a few weeks and see how it goes, see if we can move to a live format and see how that works out. And we will do the Alabama version of the podcast in just mere moments.
Don't forget forget to follow us at Tigers and Tide 1 on Twitter and Facebook.com/Tigers and Tide. Also, be sure to follow War Eagle Sports Radio at War Eagle Radio for the latest on Auburn Tigers sports. Thanks for listening to the Auburn Football Podcast from SoutheasternFootball.com on War Eagle Sports Radio of the Sporto channel. Download our free iOS app. Just search for Tigers and Tide in the App Store. And subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and iHeartRadio. Just search for Tigers and Tide. And for the latest SEC news, log on to SoutheasternFootball.com.